All right, God and greetings, y'all. Welcome back to the channel. We are still checking out the Power Now. This chapter one, part three, we're gonna get into. Remember, we're looking at this book to help transform our lives, remove some of the suffering that we're going through. If you're going through any, or you might not be going through any suffering, right? And you're just adding value to your life. Still a good book to check out. Remember, go buy it from the store, go buy it on Audible, listen to it, read it. Make sure you just get it and internalize it. Okay, so let's hop right into this here. Let's see what we got here. Okay, first slide here. Incessant mental noise prevents you from finding that realm of inner stillness that is inseparable from being. It also creates a false mind-made self that casts a shadow of fear and suffering. Incessant mental noise. So all the negative thinking, what I'm gonna eat today, what time I got to get up and go to church. I got to get up and work early. I got to work some overtime. I got to plan the wedding. What color the wedding dress gonna be? I wonder if I'm gonna get all the bridesmaids. I wonder if he gonna have the groomsmen. I wonder if dude gonna be his best man. I don't really like him, so all of that stuff right there prevents you from finding that realm of inner stillness. Because remember, the inner stillness, the essence, the true you, it's there. It's just the noise is covering it up. And then that noise creates a pattern and a chain of events. It creates the feeling. And now, before you know it, you're in this negative space, okay? It also creates a false mind made self that casts a shadow of fear and suffering. So, again, with all these thoughts, what he's saying is you create a whole nother entity, a personality, an ego, so to speak, that's not even you. That ego, that entity is just something that you created through this negative pattern of thinking and feeling. And that's how you're viewing the world, through that ego and through that entity. You're viewing your wife, your husband, your job, the children, the career, the money, etc., through that egoic state of thinking and feeling, not from who you truly are, because you covered up who you truly are by all this negative thinking and negative feeling that you part of you have been programmed with, and all of you have been all of who you are has been programmed with that. So the goal again is to remove all of that and start seeing life through who you truly are, that true essence, that true being. Okay, let's keep going. The philosopher Descartes, I don't know how to say that, Descartes' famous statement, I think, therefore I am, expresses the most basic error to equate thinking with being and to identity with thinking. Let me say that again. Uh, the famous statement, I think, therefore I am, expresses to the most basic error to equate thinking with being and identity with thinking. Okay, that's incorrect. So all the thinking that we're doing, again, we identify with it. That's what I mean by you looking at the lens of the entire world through the thinking and the feeling that you've created. And the thinking and the feeling is not who you are. You can't identify with the thinking and the feeling, and then look at the world from that scope and that lens. It's going to be very skewed, and it's going to cause a lot of suffering. It's going to cause a lot of pain, a lot of fear, a lot of guilt. All of these emotions and things that we go through on a regular basis is coming from that lens of the egoic mind, the egoic thinking, the egoic feeling. Is coming from that. So when we identify with that thinking or that feeling, it's going to cause suffering. So Eckhart is telling us right here, we do not need to identify with thinking or feeling. Think about it this way. For example, if you may have a thought of, I don't know, maybe your spouse get on your nerves one day and you say, I hate this man. I don't ever want to be with him again, right? That thought might pop in your head, and then you might say, wow, I can't believe I thought that. That's not true. I don't want to think like that. Please forgive me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Now, you've gone from thinking, I hate my husband, I hate my spouse, I hate my wife, whatever the case may be. Then you go to thinking, man, why did I think that? I shouldn't have thought that. That's a negative thought. Then you go to feeling down on yourself for having thought about that. The fact that we are identifying with those things is what adds on the suffering, because you think that those thoughts are who you are. So look at it this way. Would you ever think a thought that, would you ever intentionally think a thought that would cause suffering? Probably not. You would probably never think a thought that would cause you suffering on purpose or intentionally. So when these thoughts come into your head, and they cause suffering, or they're negative, they're not good, there's something bad, you didn't do that intentionally. So you know they're not who you are truly, because these thoughts, if they're causing you suffering, you wouldn't intentionally cause yourself suffering. So you know that they're not you. You don't have to identify with them. So just keep that in mind the next time you're having all these negative thoughts and they're causing you suffering, wherever their thoughts are worried or not. Is my child sick? Again, am I going to get this job? Is this guy going to propose to me? Does this woman want me to propose to them? All of these thoughts going through your head, causing some kind of worry, probably causing anxiety, causing suffering. You wouldn't intentionally do that to yourself. So you know that that's not you. You don't have to identify with them. And to identify with them is what's causing the suffering. If you can kind of separate yourself a bit, put a little space in there, and come to the awareness and realization that I am not my thoughts, then we can get a little peace coming in, okay? Let's keep going. It says the compulsive thinker, which means almost everyone, lives in a state of apparent separateness in an insanely complex world of continuous problems and conflict. And again, that's what we was talking about, I believe, in the last video, where we think we're disconnected from source and being and who we truly are. We think we're an individual living in this world. We have no kind of support from, whether you want to call it God, the universe, divine, infinite intelligence, whatever the case may be. To think that you're separate causes a sense of suffering as well. It says, in an insanely complex world of continuous problems and conflict. And that's got to be very unpleasant, to be separate from any and everyone, to have no support, and you're in a world with a whole bunch of problems. That's not a good place to be in, okay? And all of the problems are existing in your head through the negative thinking, and in your body through the negative feeling, through the negative emotions. So some of these, or a lot of things that's happening, is not even real. They're illusion or illusory, because they're not even something to deal with right now in the present moment. You're just overthinking, thinking about the future, thinking about the past, not being in the now. You're suffering from it. Okay? Let's keep going. Enlightenment is not only the end of suffering and of continuous conflict within and without, but also the end of dreadful enslavement to incessant thinking. What an incredible liberation this is. Absolutely. Again, when we get done with the incessant thinking, or the thinking that's over and over and over, the compulsive thinking, right? When we get done with that, when we get that out of our being, out of our system, the suffering ends, the liberation begins. And again, it's not something that you have to go seeking outside of yourself. It's something that you have to go within and realize, hey, I'm not these thoughts. Let me separate myself from these thoughts a little bit. Let me stop having judgment because of these thoughts. Let me separate myself from these emotional negative feelings. I know I'm not these feelings either. You start to bring about a little bit of space, okay? So enlightenment is not only the end of suffering and a continuous conflict within and without, but also the end of the dreadful enslavement to incessant thinking, right? All the overanalyzing, overthinking stops, okay? That's what we want. Okay, let's keep moving. It says the mind is a superb instrument if used rightly. Used wrongly, however, it becomes very destructive. To put it more accurately, it is not so much that you use your mind wrongly. You usually don't use it at all. It uses you. This is the disease. You believe that you are your mind. This is the delusion. The instrument has taken you over. So, in other words, the mind, the emotions, the thoughts, this, that, and the third, they play a place. They play a part, excuse me, in humanity, in your every day-to-day life. You have to use your mind. You have to use thoughts, and you have to use thinking. It's okay to have emotions, but what happens is they take over us. They start to cause us suffering, because we're overthinking, we're overanalyzing. We never have a place of stillness. We never have any quiet time. And therefore, we're always on the go. Our mind is always racing. All these racing thoughts cause all these racing feelings. All these racing feelings create more racing thoughts. And it just puts us in this cycle, right? There's never a time for quietness, stillness, meditation, tapping back into source and that eternal internal being. There's never any time for that, because we're always on the go, always on the go. So again, the mind, if used correctly, it's okay, it's great, but if it takes over, then it becomes a problem. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. The beginning of freedom is the realization that you are not the possessing entity, the thinker. Okay. You are not the thinker. All them thoughts that's just coming into your head, you are not that. You are not connected to the thoughts. You are not attached to the thoughts. So do not identify with those thoughts. That is not you. Knowing this enables you to observe the entity. The moment you start watching the thinker, a higher level of consciousness becomes activated. So, in other words, all of these thoughts that's coming into your head, again, you can separate yourself just a little bit, acknowledge and come to the awareness that, okay, I used to identify with these thoughts, but I'm not going to do that anymore. Because again, remember, we know we wouldn't intentionally think something or do something that's going to cause us suffering, right? We're not going to do that. So the thoughts that might come in your head, and when we judge them, there's something that, how do I want to put this? That's not us. That's what I want to say. That's not who we are. And when you can realize that and stop judging the thought, stop judging yourself, you'll put a little space in between. You'll get a little bit of grace to come in there, a little bit of peace to come in there because you'll know, okay, this is not who I am. The problem is we identify with these thoughts. We have a negative thought, so to speak. We think we're a bad person. We think we're an evil person. We start judging ourselves. We start judging the thoughts. But once you realize these thoughts are just rampant, they're just coming out of nowhere. Some of them are coming from the environment. Some of them are coming from things that you experience. Some of them are coming from, for example, road rage. If somebody's driving on the road, they cut you off, you're ready to cuss them out. That's just a program thought pattern or reaction that's programmed. That's just what you're used to doing. Some you probably saw on TV, some probably saw your parents doing, and that's just what you know of what you're supposed to do if somebody cuts you off in the road, right? But the problem is we identify with their thinking. We think that that's who we are. We start feeling bad for being that person that cussed them out, this, that, and the third. And so that starts a whole snowball effect of negative thinking and negative emotion, right? And when you come to the point that even if you have a reaction like that, if you're triggered and you do have a reaction, you can come back to a place of awareness and say, okay, there was a reaction. Probably shouldn't have done that. Not going to judge myself for it. Not going to feel bad for it. I'm going to make sure that I'm more aware next time, have a little bit more consciousness about myself. So when that person cuts me off, I'm not so triggered to react without, I don't want to say without thinking, because the reaction doesn't require thinking, it's just a reaction. You won't be triggered to react, so to speak. You'll be more conscious, you'll be more aware. And so the reaction won't happen anyway, okay? So the moment you start watching the thinker, a higher level of consciousness become activated. And again, you remember when you watch the thinker, you're going to know that you are not the thinker. And that's what helps to reduce the reaction. Okay, I'm not this thinker, and so I don't have to react that way. All right, let's keep going. The voice in your head comments, speculates, judges, compares, complains, likes, dislikes, and so on. The voice isn't necessarily relevant to the situation you find yourself in at the time. It may be reviving the recent or distant past or rehearsing or imagining possible future situations. So again, the thoughts that's coming in your head, that narrative that you're thinking all day long. When you get up, man, I gotta go to work. Get in here, let me go brush my teeth. Let me go put on this uniform I want to put on. Such and such probably gonna be there, gonna be in a bad mood. Well, let me get up. I gotta go and get the kids ready for school. I gotta go and cook breakfast. I gotta go and do such and such again. What color is the wedding dress? What color is the bridesmaid dresses? Who all gonna be in attendance? All this overthinking. Again, comments, speculates, judges, compares, complains, likes, dislikes. Even if it's yeah, that was a nice helicopter ride. I can't wait to go on another one. This honeymoon gonna be great. We're going to Hawaii. We're gonna plan a 4-day excursion. We're going snorkeling, this, that, and the third. Constantly mind activity. Constant mind activity. Again, positive or negative, it's constant mind activity. Okay. And it says the voice isn't necessarily relevant to the situation. So you might not, you might just be sitting at home in the car thinking, I mean, sitting at home on the couch thinking about all these things. And you're not even doing any of them, but the mind is still racing over and over and over again. Okay? Let's keep moving. This is because the voice belongs to your conditioned mind, which is the result of all your past history, as well as the collective cultural mindset you inherited. Again, the environment, excuse me, the environment you grew up in, the way your parents raised you, the way your brothers maybe teased you when you went to school, they messed with you, or maybe didn't know about the food, which you was just an outsider. All of this starts to shape the programming, and the programming starts to shape the thoughts and the voice in our head. And again, we start living based on our environment and our experiences. We start looking at life through that scope. Okay, so the voice belongs to your conditioned mind. Again, how you grew up, the trauma, the people picking on you, didn't pick on you, showed you a lot of love, left you alone, et cetera, et cetera. That's the conditioned mind. That's the environment, the programming, the way society taught you and raised you, shaped you, which is the result of all your past history, as well as the collective cultural mindset you inherited. Again, that's the environment, that's the society. So you see and judge the present through the eyes of the past and get a totally distorted view of it. Correct. The way that you was raised with your parents, your siblings, the school, the environment, society, the laws, the rules, everything. You're looking at life through that scope. And so you have a skewed sense of reality. You're not looking at life from your true essence and your true being. And that's what Eckhart Tolle is trying to get us back to, not to look at life through the lens of what we've been programmed and conditioned to, but through the lens of who we are truly, our true essence and our true being. Okay? Let's keep going. The good news is that you can free yourself from your mind. This is the only true liberation. You can take the first step right now. Start listening to the voice in your head as often as you can. So Eckhart said it's good news. We don't have to stay in that state all the time. We can start now. Start listening to the voice in your head. Listening to the voice in your head is going to create a little bit of space. It's going to start making you realize, okay, there's a voice in my head that I can actually hear and be aware of. Now that's causing separation. So that means I'm not the voice if I can be aware of the voice. So now we got a little space, a little separation, a little grace coming in to let us breathe a little bit. And so you'll start creating a little bit of gap of the suffering. Okay. Let's keep going. When you listen to that voice, listen to it impartially. That is to say, do not judge. Do not judge or condemn what you hear. For doing so would mean that the same voice has come in through the back door. So in other words, okay, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch my thoughts. And your thoughts may be, I'm hungry. Okay. I'm thirsty. I want to get up and go outside. I hate my boss. And then you might say, damn, I don't want to think that. I don't hate my boss. I don't hate my boss. That's not a good thought. When you do that right there, you're judging the thought and you're saying, hey, that's not a good thought. You're making the thought negative. Even if you say some of the other thoughts are positive, you're still labeling it, you're judging it, right? And that's what he mean by now that same voice has come through the back door. Their voice of judgment has stepped in, and there's still another voice. There's still the programming. There's still the reactive, egoic mind, because their mind is saying, hey, that thought was negative. And does not want you to do that. All he wants you to do right now at this state is just be aware that thoughts are coming into the mind. Again, to label the thought is another thought coming into the mind. It's very tricky. It's very easy to happen, but you got to continue to have that awareness to say, I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to observe the thoughts. I hear them. I see them. Not going to say whether they're good, whether it's bad, whether it's a long stream of thought, a short stream of thoughts. I'm just going to acknowledge that these thoughts are coming. That's it. Okay, let's keep going. So when you listen to a thought, you are aware not only of the thought, but also of yourself as the witness of the thought. A new dimension of consciousness has come in. That's what I mean by when you'll be aware of the thoughts, you'll realize that, okay, these thoughts are here. I'm over here being aware of them. So now I got a little bit of space. He states as a new dimension of consciousness has come in. Okay, let's keep going. This is the beginning of the end of involuntary and compulsive thinking. When a thought subsides, you experience a discontinuity in the mental stream, a gap of no mind. At first, the gaps will be short, a few seconds perhaps, but gradually they will become longer. So again, when you start seeing that separateness and that space between the person that's aware of the thoughts, you got thoughts over here, awareness over here. In between, there's a gap, there's a space. It's going to be short at first, like he said, and then as you continue that practice, it's going to extend and get longer and longer and longer. And when that gap gets longer and bigger and extends, there's less thinking, there's less narrative, there's less suffering. Okay, let's keep going. This is the beginning of your natural state of felt oneness with being, which is usually obscured by the mind. With practice, the sense of stillness and peace will deepen. And again, you keep practicing, that gap will get bigger. You'll tap back into source, the essence of who you are, because all of the thinking and the judging is gone, right? And that time will get longer and longer. Okay, let's keep going. It is not a trance-like state. So in other words, that gap, that space, that stillness, that being, it is not a trance-like state, not at all. There is no loss of consciousness here. The opposite is the case. If the price of peace were a lowering of your consciousness and the price of stillness a lack of vitality and alertness, then they would not be worth having. So I like that he say that. So just because you're in this state of no thought, so to speak, it's not something that's dead, that's boring, that's unconscious. It's none of that. It's more of a super conscious or a superpower because you're in a state of peace and being. You're connected back to source or all that is. That's a wonderful place and space to be in. And you didn't have to go anywhere to do it. You just had to disconnect from all the foolishness. So again, he's not saying that this place of presence, stillness, or enlightenment is bad or boring or negative or unconscious. That wouldn't be worth it. Okay, it's not that at all. In this state of interconnectedness, you are much more alert, more awake than in the mind identified state. You are fully present. It also raises the vibrational frequency of the energy field that gives life to the physical body. So there you go. In this state, now your vibration, your frequency grows and gets higher. It raises your frequency. I know a lot of people are into manifesting and the law of attraction and this, that, and the third. This is a great way to raise a vibration because all you're doing is eliminating the BS, the fluff, and the foolishness. Anything to do with law of attraction is a lot of times, as I always say, get in a positive state, think positive, focus on your desires, this, and the third. What is that really doing? It's eliminating all the negative thinking over and over and over. It's eliminating all the negative thinking so you stay in a positive space. Okay, so again, going back to presence, going back to being, it puts you in that positive space and allows your vibration and your frequency to raise. Okay, let's keep going. Instead of watching the thinker, you can also create a gap in the mind stream simply by directing the focus of your attention into the now. Just become intensely conscious of the present moment. So the first example he gave was to just be aware of the thinking. In this example, he's saying you can stop the thinking not necessarily stop the thinking altogether, but focus on the present moment right now. So in other words, if you are sitting in the car driving right now, maybe you're driving to work listening to this video, focus on the driving, everything that's going around you. The light may be turning red, maybe turning green. The air may be coming through the air vent. You hear my voice in your ear. What you're focused on all of those things. How fast or slow the car is moving, what the steering wheel feels like in your hand. All of those things have everything to do with your present moment of driving right now. What you don't focus on is, I got a ton of paperwork to do when I get to work. I can't believe such and such called off. This traffic light is taking forever. I can't believe that person cut me off. I can smell the exhaust coming from. That's what you're not thinking about. Because those are things, one, you can't control, and they take you out of the present moment. Okay? They take you out of the present moment. And that's not what you're looking to do. All you want to focus on is the present moment. Okay? Let's keep going. In your everyday life, you can practice this by taking any routine activity that normally is only a means to an end and giving it your fullest attention so that it becomes an end in itself. Again, the same thing with the example of driving in a car. You're not going to be focused what you got to do at work, what the boss got to do, who called off. All you focus on is I'm driving, my hands on the wheel, I'm listening to this video, I'm going about 40 miles per hour. The seat cushion feels soft, the steering wheel feels firm. Um, that's the present moment, right? And so what he means by it's not just a means to an end. In other words, normally when we drive to work or the grocery store, we get in the car, we hurry up, we want to get to the grocery store because we want to get the groceries and get back home. We don't want to be in traffic, we don't want to be waiting in line, we want to do all those things. So driving to the grocery store becomes a task that we don't want to do. All we want to do is eat the meal from the groceries that we got. So we don't want to go get in the car, drive through traffic, actually get the basket, put the groceries in the shopping cart, wait in line, pay for it, come back, cook dinner, and then eat. We don't want to do all the in-between stuff. We just want to eat. So what Eckhart is saying, put your full present, be in a present moment by driving in the car in the present moment, walking through the grocery store in the present moment. Okay, I'm taking a step, this step, this step, I'm walking. It's a nice sunshiny day. Get my cart. Okay, I'm going to enjoy getting my cart. Or even if you're not enjoying it, I'm getting my cart. I'm walking through the grocery store. I'm getting a can of tomatoes. I'm getting a such and such, such and such. So now it's not just let me hurry up past this part of my life so I can get to the dinner. I'm going to go through and experience the entire process. And when I get to the dinner, I'm going to experience the dinner as well. So that the present moment doesn't become just a means to the end. I'm just going to suffer through the process just to get to the meal. No, I'm going to enjoy the entire process and enjoy the meal. Okay, let's keep going. So the single most vital step on your journey toward enlightenment is this: learn to disidentify from your mind. Every time you create a gap in the stream of mind, the light of your consciousness grows stronger. Because remember, the enlightenment, the awakened state, that's your true nature. All we're doing is removing the fluff. All we're doing is removing the BS. All we're doing is removing the negative narrative that's in our head, the negative emotion that we're feeling in our body. Okay, that's all we're doing. The awakened state is already there. The consciousness is already there. It's just going to continue to grow stronger. So again, learn to disidentify from the mind, the thought processes, the thought narrative, and all of the emotions in the body. Okay. To the ego, the present moment hardly exists. Only past and future are considered important. This total reversal of the truth accounts for the fact that in the ego mode, the mind is so dysfunctional. Okay, again, the ego, the present moment hardly exists. It does not care about the present moment. So in other words, same scenario, we drive into work or we drive into the grocery store. We don't want to drive. That's the present moment. We don't want to be at this stoplight. That's the present moment. We don't want to have to get through traffic. We don't want to have to go in the grocery store. We don't want to have to push the basket. All those things are we doing presently. All we want to do is just eat, which is in the future, right? That's all we want to do. So the ego does not like the present moment. It hardly exists. It's unimportant because all we want to get to is the goal, the goal, the goal, the goal. Can't do that, okay? Let's keep going. The present moment holds the key to liberation, but you cannot find the present moment as long as you are your mind. As long as you identify with your mind, those thought patterns, those emotions that you're feeling, as long as you identify with it, you won't be able to find the present moment because, again, it's convoluted with a whole bunch of thought patterns and going here and going there, doing this, doing that. These thought patterns are creating some emotions. Maybe you got some negative emotions or any kind of emotions. They creating thoughts. So you're not going to find the present moment there. You have to disidentify from the mind and again, go within, have some quiet time, take a deep breath, get back to presence, and then you'll find your liberation. Again, that's only in the present moment. You can't do it in the future, even though your wedding is somewhere in December. You can't do it in the past, even though you got in trouble as a little kid. You have to do it right now, okay? Enlightenment means rising above thought, not falling back to a level below thought, the level of an animal or a plant. In the enlightened state, you still use your thinking mind when needed, but in a much more focused and effective way than before. You use it mostly for practical purposes, but you are free of the involuntary internal dialogue and there is stillness. So again, you can have a thinking mind. You can use your mind. You can have emotions. But again, like we said earlier, the problem is when they start to take over. The problem is when the thinking mind starts to run so rampant with thoughts, whether negative or positive, but it's constantly running thoughts through your head. It's constantly got a narrative going. You constantly got feelings. You're going from anger to happy to fun to sad to crying to depressed. All of this stuff is going on over and over and over and over and over. And you don't have a sense of self essence being, not tapping back in because there's too much stuff going on. And again, you don't have to go searching for being or that true essence. You just have to remove all the other stuff. And what Eckhart's saying is when we come back to presence in the now, then we can find that enlightened state. It's not in the future, it's not in the past, it's not in all the mind activity, the mind and body activity with the thoughts and the emotion is not there. You have to tap back in inwardly and you'll find it. Okay. Okay. So some key points to remember. Neither God nor being nor any other word can define or explain the ineffable reality behind the word. Okay. The beginning of freedom is the realization that you are not the possessing entity, the thinker. Learn to disidentify from your mind. Every time you create a gap in the stream of mind, the light of your consciousness grows stronger. Okay. So if y'all made it to the end with me, I sure appreciate it. That went a little bit longer than I thought. And we had like 30 minutes, 31 minutes, something like that. But again, if you made it to the end, I appreciate it. Come back for the next one because we're going to keep going. If you want to show some support, do the like, subscribe, comment, and all that. If you want to send some financial support, I sure appreciate it. You can do that at buymeacoffee.com/peace and positivity or Cash App $KOS901. And I got the QR codes right there for you if you want to use those. But again, and if you don't, it's all good. I appreciate it anyway. Thank y'all for just sticking around to the end and come back for the next one, okay? Y'all take care, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.